Hi, welcome to the Please Subscribe Show. So this is kind of lessons in survival against the police. Now, if you're in a hotel room, let's say a bunch of police officers are in the hallway, which they'll usually be in the hallway, and they'll say, "Come out of the hotel room, come out of the hotel room." They cannot kick in your hotel room, even if they have somewhat probable cause. The reason why is because that's called illegal entry without a proper, a judge would have to give them a warrant to just enter into any place. We're going to talk about an instance where the police are 100% wrong. And this goes also, it'll tie into the case of the lady that was killed and the guy returned fire, all that stuff. And she was supposedly had drugs, or she was a nurse or something like that. And the police shot back and there was a big shooting thing and the guy didn't know who was kicking in the door and stuff like that. Best survival is to just lay on the floor, and when you hear the police over you, just say, "I need a paramedic," and don't move or anything. Because then they just have to shoot you right there for no reason, right? And then they'd get the death penalty. This case, this police officer should have got the death penalty. The reason why is this police officer said, "I'm going to shoot and kill you." And he shot and killed the guy. Now, the guy was a little drunk. His blood alcohol level was actually 1 something. It wasn't that high. It was 1 point something. It wasn't as high as the donut operator said. But in this case, this is survival techniques. The best thing the guy should have done was he should have went in the bathroom, laid down in the bathroom, laid there in his shorts or whatever, let them come in, let them illegally kick in the door, and then he should have mumbled to them, "I need a paramedic." Right? And he'd be alive today. Let's watch what he did that was wrong. The first thing he did was he listened to the police and not to God. You always want to listen to God first. So if the police are yelling outside your door, they are gang members asking you to come out so they can shoot you, okay? They did it to David Koresh, they did it to a lot of other people, and they'll ask you to come out. They'll use words first to try to kill you. Now, they may use words to their partners, but they'll use legalistic jargon to kill you. We're going to watch how this officer used legalistic jargon to murder someone. And when he went to trial, he was acquitted. All right, here's the hotel in Mesa. The name of the victim is Daniel Shaver. I'm sorry about his parents and everything. I'm sorry about his family, but these police officers should have been up for the death penalty. Watch the actions. Of course, I'm putting the donut operator on mute. We're in a hotel room. You're familiar with that sign. So first of all, the officers would need a warrant to kick in the door. They're actually, in this case right here, they're actually entering this hotel, wherever it was, some motel or hotel. They planned the execution right before their staircase. They also brought assault rifles because this guy had a pellet gun because he was in pest control, okay? Someone had saw that he had stuck a rifle outside the window. Now, that could have been a prank call, right? People do prank calls all the time. So a judge may not give them the right to kick in to the hotel room or to wherever the guy was at, right? He was in a hotel room. He may not give them permission just because someone called it in, because that person could have been drunk or on drugs, and that's just hearsay. They did not see the gun, nor did he have a gun. He had a pellet gun, okay? They brought to their little trial an assault rifle. This is a police officer, probably connected with SWAT, okay? This is the killer. Now, he uses words, and they're using speakers, megaphone kind of thing, telling the guy, "Come out from the room. We're going to kill you," in layman terms. The subtext is that. And he listened to them, and he died. The lady that...
502, this is the Mesa Police.
Okay, they're using like a megaphone saying this is the Mesa Police. Don't be afraid. If they don't have the warrant, they'll eventually either stand off or they'll leave, okay? They may pound on the door and pound on the door and pound on the door. They want you to come out because they want to kill you, okay? You want to just remain calm. The good thing is get into a position where it looks non-lethal, like on your stomach. And the first thing you just need to say to them is, "I need a paramedic. I need a paramedic." Because they could think, police are always thinking the worst. So if they came in, they could think maybe you had something happen, like you tripped and fell, right? Or something like that. They don't know what happened to you. They don't know anything, right? They only assume. Police only assume and never assume anything, right? You never want to assume anything. It's one of the promises that's written in this book. Don't ever assume anything. Right? police will assume first and kill. Okay? Their assumption is that he's a deadly man with an assault rifle, but that's the police officer with the assault rifle. The deadly person is the police officer with his assault rifle here. The man that he kills does not have a weapon. And actually, they killed an unarmed man, so he was not armed when they executed him. This is a very tough one to watch. The police officer was let off. Now, I think there should be a retrial, and I think the officer should be retrialed, and I think the officer should be put in prison.
Or it's going to become very uncomfortable for you.
Okay, so the officer is using threatening language, like it's going to be uncomfortable for you. Like I said, the officer will use words, right? He will tempt you and use words against you to try to make you feel weak or scared. He'll put fear in you so that he can execute you. Now listen.
The female is to step out.
The first thing they're going to go after is the female, okay? They're going to be the wedge in your marriage. They're going to be the wedge in your date. They're going to want to take control and seize the female first, which they do before they execute him. They'll go after the female because, well, they replace their guns for their penises, okay? Many officers are actually homosexual.
Side of the room.
Okay, this is the donut operator who used to be a police officer, and he's doing kind of like a comedy about all this stuff. And he's in San Antonio, and I think he should actually be put in jail for doing these videos and making money off of it. I actually think the donut operator should go to prison. The worst that, listen, there's two things the police officers fear more than anything. First is prison, second is YouTube, right? And if you do research on the donut operator, you find out that son of a gun is wrapped up in big time cartel drugs, big time methamphetamine, big time. And he sells, and he also smokes the weed. I know for a fact. Okay, so I guess and they let her live, but they don't let the male live. They kill him. Okay, so he has his hands up, which is already showing benign behavior. Okay, so he's doing what he's instructed to do. So he came out, his first gesture or the first positioning, he's saying, I washed for dinner, right? My hands are up. I'll surrender. I'll go home, or I'll eventually get out of jail the next day because I only have a pellet gun, right? But they kill him anyway. Now listen to the officer, because he will tell him that he will shoot him, right? No matter what he does. He'll find his reason. Remember, they have to find the reason. The reason is the legal reason, right? It's got to be a legal reason. Why was Jesus crucified? For a legal reason. He was crucified for a legal reason. He was also crucified for hubris, right? But for a legal reason. He has to find the legal reason, right? Or just a reason. You could even say a logical reason, right? But it's still a reason to kill.
Lay down on the ground. Lay down on the...
Okay, he's following instructions, but he still gets executed by the police. The police officer nowadays wants to do one thing only. He wants to kill you with his assault rifle, or he wants to kill you with his gun because he plays PlayStation 5, right? They didn't have PlayStation 5 in this one, but they probably had PlayStation 3. He asked him, who else is in the room? He says, nobody. His gesture is benign, so he's laying flat on the ground and following orders. He still is executed.
Nobody else is in the room? Nobody positive? Nobody, absolutely positive.
Now, this right here should have been de-escalated, so the gun should have been lowered, right? At this point, there is no threat coming from Schaefer. His name is Daniel Schaefer. There's no threat coming from Daniel Schaefer at this point. So the gun should be lowered. And really, to be honest, at this point, that officer should have been already fired. Why does he have a gun on him? Over hearsay, over assumption.
I'm going to go over some of them again, okay?
Okay, now he's going to use complex jargon with the man before he kills him. I'm going to go over blah, blah this and blah, blah that. We're going to play a little game, just like Saul. Just like any evil villain, right? We're going to play a little game, right? Here's the game that he wants him to play. He gives him all these instructions before he guns him down.
Can you both hear and understand me? Yes.
Okay, so he asked them, can you both hear and understand me? And the lady says yes, which probably makes him mad. Because he could, next week, go back and have another date with that lady, right? Unless he kills him, which the officer does.
Did you make a mistake?
In many cases, I would come to believe that that officer actually probably went later on, dated that woman, if you do the research. One of the officers that were involved in this shooting probably dated, meaning hooked up with that lady later on and probably raped her. Do research on that.
Another mistake, there's a very severe possibility you're both going to get shot. Do you understand?
Okay. He tells them right there is a severe possibility. Severe. That doesn't sound right. That sounds like an abuse of language. Severe possibility that you both are going to be shot. That does not sound sane. And that's how they speak. Remember, they use words against you first to try to kill you.
Yeah. Yeah, all right. Look, this is shut. I'm not here to be tactful or diplomatic with you. You listen, you obey.
The words he uses are you listen and you obey. I don't know what police academy he went to, but it was the S&M one, right? You listen and you obey, right? He's playing God at this point, right? And he's going to kill him, and he does. You listen and you obey. Those are very strange words.
For one thing, did I tell you to move, young man?
Okay. So we move. I've studied acting for many years. I've studied at the Actors Studio. I've studied with people like Ellen Bernstein, many different people that understand human behavior. People are always moving. You cannot move without emotion, okay? It's been studied. So when you move any way at all, there's a slight emotion involved in your movement. A movement and emotion are the same thing. An actor, the best type of actor is one that's, I'm trying to think of the right word. They're the type of actors that are effortless, right? They're effortless in the fact that they move just because they move, you know, but not because there's any really effort behind it. There was no effort behind his movement. It was effortless movement. So it wasn't dramatic movement. It was just movement because he's alive until he kills him, right? He already has him in his sight. So at this point, if you see the situation going out, take out the officer at that point, meaning shoot the officer down at that point. Defend the person there if there's any fire at all. Because it doesn't matter that he has a badge. He doesn't have the right to kill another person. You can defend other people against police officers. You can kill a police officer to defend another person. It can happen. And you should never be afraid of that at all. Okay. The reason why is because his badge does not give him a special license to murder people in a hotel room. Also, the donut operator, get off the air. You have a low IQ, and you're not funny. You're hurting people. So stop it.
Did I tell you to put both your hands on the top of your head and interlace your fingers? Take your feet.
Okay. So he gave him a command. He followed. So he is being Wilco. Wilco means he's following commands.
And cross your left foot over your right foot.
And he's doing that too. Now, of course, the man is drunk. But remember, the man does lose his life because of words. Because the officer was tricky enough to use words and then kill him. Okay? We're talking about when an officer needs to be completely retrained, he first needs to be retrained how not to kill. And he needs to be trained with his words. He's going to have to be retrained with that. Right there. Those words. You live by the sword, you will and shall die by the sword. You live by the gun, and you will die by your gun.
So far, the commands are interlace your...
Okay, so this man will die by a gun. He'll live by his gun, and he'll die next to his gun, right? He'll die by his gun, meaning he'll be next to his gun when he dies.
You are to keep
he
your
worships
legs
that.
crossed. Do you understand me? You are to put.
Okay, so the man is obviously probably maybe he could have impregnated that lady at this time. Could be possibly getting ready to marry her. But he became the wedge in their possible marriage at this point by exterminating him, right? By killing him.
Both of your hands, palms down, straight out in front of you.
So the officer is persistent. I have to take my hat off to the officer. He was persistent in making this kill, which is wrong. It's evil. It's malice, and it's wrongful. It's a wrongful death, right? It's a murder just like the Zodiac killer. It's a murder just like any type of killer. It's, the Golden Gate killer that was a serial killer that was a police officer. There's been serial killers that were police officers, and there's probably a lot of them. This is one of them. This man right here, is like a serial killer. He'll kill again if he can.
Push yourself up to a kneeling position. I said keep your legs crossed!
Okay, so this is a complex thing. He gave the man an order, and he rose to his knees and was just basically trying to, probably may have heard something. He told him to do something with his legs, to cross his legs or something like that, right? A complex order, and that's what ended up getting him killed, because he reached for his waistband. And remember, when it was called that he had a rifle. They didn't know he had a pellet gun, right? But that's what he was killed for, an assumption. They assumed. Okay, the man does get emotional because he's being pushed too far. This is basically a perfect example of escalation. There's no reason for a police officer to ever knock on your door. There's never a reason. Door-to-door salesman too, right? A door-to-door salesman, solicitor. There's never a reason for a police officer ever to knock on your door, unless you're Charles Manson or you're, Osama bin Laden. There's never a reason ever. If they would have stayed in the hotel room, they would have been alive today. Or, the one guy, she's probably dead inside though, because, he took away he took away love, right? Because they cannot live by love standards if they're carrying a lethal weapon. They're living by Satan's standard, by the devil.
I didn't say this in conversation.
You're hearing the devil speak. This is what the devil sounds like. He's obey and aggression. He's asking permission here to kill, and the man gives it to him. All the man had to do was lay there and not move and say, I need a paramedic.
Hands up in the air! You do that again, we're shooting you. Do you?
Okay, so he gives him a command and he escalates it. You do that again and we're going to shoot you. This is in every single case where a police officer kills another person, okay? In every single case. They're going to reach a level of psychology. They're going to say, obey me, obey me, obey me. They're going to reach that level and they're going to say, you do it again, we're going to kill you, right? They're at that level. Like, I've drawn the line. I've drawn the line, right? I'm drawing the line, right? That's the mentality that has to be taken out. It's not a war. They need to be psychologists with stun guns, because this man could have had a stun gun rather than an assault rifle, right? This police officer, really a boy, because most police officers are boys, they're not really men. Their IQ levels are very, very low and they think like children. But he should have had a stun gun at this point. But he chose to kill the guy, right? He chose to.
Don't talk, listen!
Okay. So the officer probably maybe be in the process of a divorce, maybe having family problems. At this point, he is telling him to do all of this stuff, right? The donut operator is completely wrong. He should be off the air, and they should stop him. The government should come in and stop the donut operator, but they can't. But the donut operator, what he does is like a big coliseum, a Roman coliseum. He's that guy, kill, 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 kill. Look at them, they're dying. Ha, 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 ha. Look, So he gave him an order and scared him. The man begins to cry. It's very hard to watch. So the man that ends up being executed begins crying. And the officer just keeps on and keeps on and keeps on. He's crying. He's saying, please don't shoot me. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. All this stuff. And he kills him anyway.
Hands straight up in the air.
Now remember, the officer is acquitted.
Put your hands down for any reason. You think you're going to fall, you better fall on your face. Your hands go back in the small of your back.
Okay, now he's confusing the man. He's creating confusion, right? He's giving him all these different orders. I mean, if you were a circus trainer, juggle these kittens and stand on your hand. It's like, what are you talking about, right?
We are going to shoot you. Do you understand me?
Okay, the second time the officer tells him, we are going to shoot you, right? We are going to disarm all the police in all 50 states. The police are going to be disarmed from lethal weapons. From lethal weapons.
Crawl towards me.
Okay, so the man knows he's gonna die. You can tell by his voice. You can hear in the police officer's voice that he is gonna kill him. That's another thing that they need to stop with the police officers, is yelling. A police officer never has a reason to yell or to create fear in another person. If a police officer ever creates an ounce of fear in you, go to the department and report him. They're going to create an app that people are going to be able to download on their phone. And if a police officer ever puts fear in you, report them to the department. Get their badge number and report them. Say, this is the reason why the police officer made me feel uncomfortable. You can even say he had a lethal weapon on his side. Please say that. So my main goal in life, one of my main goals, besides making videos and things like this, is to make sure that all 50 states basically create a law that makes it illegal for a police officer of any state to carry a lethal sidearm. I'm highly against them carrying lethal sidearms. Okay, so at this point, the man has broken down psychologically. The officer did break him down. He broke his will. He made him feel as if he was probably not even human anymore. He broke him down. This is the same thing the Nazis did to the Jews. Probably about the same thing the Gestapo did to Jewish people. Okay, and there was several shots because he did this. What did he do? Right? He lost his balance, right? Now, if you support my ideas about taking away lethal sidearms from police officers, you can leave comments, right? They should call police officers in and should ask them one thing and one thing only. Do you feel comfortable as a police officer and carrying your sidearm? If the police officer says, yes, I feel comfortable, they should fire that police officer. They should ask the police officer to surrender his weapon. If the police officer says no, then they should fire that police officer. He can become a citizen. I'm all for citizens carrying weapons. I think citizens should go around carrying assault rifles. I think it's perfectly fine. If you go around carrying an HK7 right on your hip or anything, perfectly fine. I support assault rifles. I support everyone carrying guns, but I do not support a Gestapo, and I do not support police officers having lethal weapons. And we're going to stop that together. One way and one way only. By remembering Daniel Schaefer.